After completing this lesson, you should be able to identify the business drivers and security challenges customers currently face, describe the FortiAuthenticator product key features, identify the sales strategies and competitive advantages of FortiAuthenticator. Of the many challenges facing the IT manager today, providing only the appropriate users with authorized access to the right applications and network resources is probably one of the most fundamental, yet the most complex, tasks to manage. According to the 2016 Verizon DBIR, although breaches are predominantly instigated by outside threat actors, when it comes to unapproved and malicious use of organizational resources, internal users are the biggest culprits. Of course, many of the internal users are not purposefully looking to harm the company and its resources. However, just the fact that they have access to certain resources make them a natural gateway to external and more sinister forces. In fact, one of the many revelations that came from the target breach was that an HVAC mechanical service partner was provided with VPN access to Target's partner billing web application server, hosted within Target's internal network. In order to access the VPN, the partner was supplied with credentials, which were stolen by malware via an email phishing campaign. Of course, one could argue in various ways as to how this breach could have been mitigated. One of the key facts that stands out is that if the passwords for the VPN credentials were not so easily accessible, or if there were stronger authentication standards enforced, the remote access granted the HVAC partner might not have been the entryway into the now infamous target breach. Which again leads back to enabling and securing user access to network and application resources. CIOs are looking to solve the following three challenges when considering user access and authentication. 1. Securing access with role-based policies while enforcing additional user verification with two-factor authentication. 2. Enabling access for guest, remote, and corporate users without introducing complex and redundant user management databases. 3. Implementing identity management for transparent and consistent user identity tracking across the network security infrastructure. We will deep dive into these three challenge areas and how FortiAuthenticator can go about addressing them. FortiAuthenticator is an identity management product for the enterprise, providing strong authentication and authorization to the wired and wireless network. It provides secure access to users, both internal and external, to applications and network resources, with the options of using various Fortinet and non-Fortinet two-factor authentication tokens, such as RSA tokens. You can also utilize X509 certificates for stronger authentication requirements, most commonly seen in financial and healthcare institutions. Some networks utilize wireless and switch-level authorization to grant access to the network. This requires an authorization system to work in conjunction with the access point, switch, and firewall. FortiAuthenticator is such an authorization system. In addition, and this is commonly seen in larger enterprise firewall deployments and environments where multiple Fortinet products are found, FortiAuthenticator can act as a single sign-on broker between a variety of Fortinet products, so that user information is captured and shared amongst your Fortinet security products. This allows the customer to scale and manage their users across the network infrastructure in a seamless fashion, and it is one of the critical components to the Fortinet security fabric. FortiAuthenticator provides three major authentication functions for network infrastructure. They are the enabling of access for wired, wireless, and guest users, securing access with the use of two-factor authentication and certificate management, and most importantly, identity management, allowing for FortiAuthenticator single sign-on with scalable and transparent user tracking. Of the three, identity management is probably the most popular and heavily influences enterprise firewall opportunities due to its impact to user-based firewall policies. We will cover each of these major functional areas in the next few slides. Most of you have configured or at least connected to a simple secured wireless network before. During this process, you quickly found out that a wireless key or password was needed to connect to a secure access point. As you can imagine, Sharing, then maintaining and securing that password in a large organization where there are hundreds of access points can quickly become a challenge. Now consider the requirement that only certain network privileges and access levels are to be assigned based on the credentials given. This is where a product like Fortiauthenticator comes in. Fortiauthenticator can quickly attach to your network and be the sole authorization point for user and access delegation to your wireless infrastructure. Fortiauthenticator can authenticate both users and machines, even in BYOD environments where only partial control of the device is available. Fortiauthenticator can use industry-standard authorization methods, like certificates or password challenges, to quickly restrict and regulate access to your guest users. It can also deliver Enterprise Port Access Control, or 802.1x, to validate a user's connection to the LAN and wireless LAN to prevent unauthorized access to the network. This makes Fortiauthenticator a key component in enabling access and user management to your Fortinet or non-Fortinet network. Sometimes giving out static passwords and specific guest credentials is just not possible. Take, for example, a coffee shop, airport, or other public areas. In these environments, because Internet access is given out as a perk, or potentially as a method to entice users to access specific websites, wireless access is provided for free, but requires some level of authorization. This can be done through Fortiauthenticator with the self-registration feature, social authentication methods, or with a temporary access code. These accounts can then be managed so that they are time-limited or are deleted after a one-time use. All of these functions can be seamlessly managed from Fortiauthenticator, working hand in hand with your wireless infrastructure and existing user management systems. Now that we've covered enabling access, next, let's cover the securing access portion. Building on our previous example, creating and managing user accounts are the basics of providing network and application level access to an organization's infrastructure and resources. However, if that user's password was compromised, how do you ensure that the resources that were made available to that user are protected properly? This is where two-factor authentication comes in. Two-factor authentication is a method of confirming a user's claimed identity by utilizing a combination of two different factors. These components take the form of the combination of something that the user knows, something that the user possesses, or something that is inseparable from the user. A good example from everyday life is the withdrawing of money from a cash machine. Only the correct combination of a bank card, something that the user possesses, and a PIN, something that the user knows, allows the transaction to be carried out. In the world of network security and digital access, the password is usually what becomes compromised, due to the lack of strong password requirements or because of poor safekeeping of the password. Or, in the case of the target breach, malware that was able to extract the contractor's VPN password from his email. Two-factor authentication provides another layer in which the user's identity can be validated, with the use of something that is in the physical possession of the user at the time of the authentication. Because of this multi-factor process and the existence of user databases like Active Directory and LDAP, Fortiauthenticator must be able to broker and manage the exchanges between the protected devices and the user databases. Functions like self-service password resets, lost token workflows, and other easy management and migration features make up the core of the Fortiauthenticator two-factor authentication offering. In addition to providing the management and software infrastructure to support secure access functions, like two-factor authentication, Fortinet also offers various token form factors that work closely with Fortiauthenticator. We call these the FortiToken products. We offer them in almost all flavors and varieties seen within the token world, from physical and mobile tokens to SMS and email tokens, and even API support, giving the organization maximum flexibility and supportability across the enterprise. FortiToken can actually work with existing third-party two-factor authentication systems, such as Cisco, F5, Citrix, and others using Radius, so that migration and interoperability is something easily accomplished. In some organizations, digital certificates are used for two-factor authentication. A digital certificate is an electronic document used to prove the ownership of a key. The certificate includes information about the key, information about its owner's identity, and the digital signature of an entity that has verified that the certificate's contents are correct. If the signature is valid, and the entity, in this case Fortiauthenticator, that is examining the certificate trusts the signer, then they know that they can use that key to communicate with its owner. PKI, or Public Key Infrastructure, exists within an entire security domain of its own and probably warrants a series of course materials to cover correctly. We won't do that in this module. All you need to know is that Fortiauthenticator has a complete list of features and functions to support the development, management, issuance of digital certificates for various secure access use cases. It acts as a central repository for your digital infrastructure and works in conjunction with FortiManager for simplified deployment options. The term identity management means a lot of things to different people within the IT world. It's mostly associated with single sign-on, however. Single sign-on is used in the security world to help identify, categorize, and apply security policies to users. The whole notion behind this term is that the firewall is able to query or capture the user ID of the networked user, and then apply specific and very granular filtering or inspection profiles to this particular user, or groups of users, and is no longer limited to the IP address of the device. In addition, as other security components such as mail, web, and application filtering become part of the network security layer for various inspection and profiling purposes, this user information must be centralized and then shared amongst the various security products. In the end, this provides a consistent user policy mapping that can be used across the enterprise, which tremendously lessens the burden for the IT policy makers, while providing consistent activity logging for security experts during forensics and breach analysis activities. Today, Fortiauthenticator supports Fortinet SSO across FortiGate, FortiClient, FortiMail, and FortiCache products, and will support other Fortinet products and even third-party products in the near future. Fortinet SSO has an extensive list of source inputs that it supports. The source input refers to the method of capturing user identity information. The most commonly utilized method is integration with Active Directory. However, sometimes there are requirements that use alternate methods of capturing user identification. Fortiauthenticator supports almost all varieties of such input sources, making Fortiauthenticator a highly interoperable product for a wide range of customers. Where most identity management products fail is when scalability and high availability becomes a requirement. Fortiauthenticator is designed to work in clusters for highly available active-active deployments, allowing for global and geographic distribution of your identity management infrastructure. Because of this architecture, Fortiauthenticator can scale to support the largest of enterprises. Good job! You now understand Fortiauthenticator and its features and benefits. In the next lesson, we'll examine specific sales strategies and other Fortiauthenticator-related sales enablement topics. Please continue to the next lesson.